I'm your host, Sindhu Nair, and today I'm joined by someone whose career has been all about staying ahead of the curve. Alekh Johari has spent nearly 2 decades exploring and shaping emerging technologies, and now is the founder of Anemoy Solutions, where he helps businesses prepare for the future of work with AI, Web3, and Metaverse. Alekh, thank you for being with us today.
Pleasure is all mine, Sindhu. Thank you for having me. Look forward to it.
Amazing. Okay. So, like we were discussing before we
Yeah.
started recording, how much I'm excited to know about all these technologies. What is this Web3, AR, VR? What is all of this, like all the fancy jargons? But before we dive into all of this and into leadership and the future of work,
Mhm.
I'd love to start with your journey. You've worn so many hats over the years, from design to global projects to now building in emerging technologies. Can you share a bit about how it all began for you? What set you on this path? And for our listeners who don't have a technology background, would be helpful to know all of these technology related stuff on a very simpler terms for everybody to understand. So over to you.
For sure, for sure. So my journey again, I would say that uh, my journey has been very, very interesting from the very beginning. So I was brought up in a like a joint family system like we have in India, right? So I was always, my father was always working, in job, but all my uncles were entrepreneurs. So, so I'd had that mix of bringing, a mix of upbringing and, seeing the different sides of, how it went. And then, so when I started, I have had multiple shifts in my career, like thankfully, I had parents who were always supportive, right? So I studied programming, I wanted to be a programmer first, but then I realized I don't want to do that. So I switched to graphics. And now how do I do it? So what do I do about graphics? And, because I was always fascinated about movies and design. And this is back in early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
So then, yeah, so somebody showed up in the house, as I've always believed that, there's always a guiding force. So at any juncture in my life, whenever I had questions which I did not really have answers to, I always found somebody like coming into my environment or being in my environment and showing up at that time with the right answer. That's how do I say it. So while I was wondering what to do and how to, do with graphics, somebody in my extended family showed up and say, I'm going for a graphics course and, can you accompany me? Accompany me, right? I said, yeah, why not?
Okay.
Let's go ahead and do it. So I said,
Yeah.
okay, let's do it. So eventually she did not join and I joined. That's how
Okay.
that's
Wow.
exactly how my graphics career, started.
Yeah.
There were obviously, certain opportunities, which would eventually take me to outside the country and work and, but, like, because I was not feeling it from within, to continue the path of being a programmer, and it was very strong. Maybe that's why, universe tried to guide me. So I joined that course and that's how my graphic journey began. So motion graphics was something which I really took liking to. It was essentially 3D modeling and, but eventually when you go into a field, uh, so motion graphics appealed more, and I started my career there, working in a production house,
So,
long hours, and all that stuff. So motion graphics is essentially, when you are watching any news channel or an entertainment channel or a sports channel, you have all these graphics coming in, which are saying sometimes the name, sometimes it's like a program opener. Nice
yeah.
3D motions going on like that, earth rotating, text coming in simple terms, all that is motion graphics.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So that could be 2D, 3D, and different but that's motion graphics. Right?
Okay.
So I thought, let's start with that. And then, from there, I went on to do few jobs, rather multiple, like, and then in 2007, I think was one of big shift that I, joined another Indian company, which was leading tech in broadcast graphics then and still is, So I joined them, stayed with them for about 13 and a half years. Then I joined another company, but, by that time, I'd always started feeling, yeah, I wanted to do something of my own. And the way
Mm-hmm.
I've been, like the kind of freedom I've always longed for is like, I will give me the, challenge that you want solved or give me the outcome that you're looking for. I will solve it for you. And if while solving it, if there are challenges that I face, I look for solutions. I'll look for guidance in it. So we'll
Yeah.
basically give you outcome. So I was always given that freedom in all my, like companies. Thankfully, I was very fortunate for that. And so yeah, so I thought, because I've always had that intent of doing things, taking ownership, and delivering things at, like, at a big scale. So I'd
Yeah.
always had the confidence, but there was always something missing, in the sense, that this could have been done this way, could have been delivered a little better way, like that part, right? But while doing that, there are also different ways of doing the same thing, which could enhance, like, how do you do project delivery, how do you do communication, how do you actually design, how can be efficient and stuff like that. So I thought,
Right.
let me do something of my own. So now when I started something of my own, I did not want it to have, the same things which I've been doing for a long time.
Hmm.
That would have been easier. So this is where another big shift came, where I, instead of being a, like a starting a creative studio straight away, or a
Yeah.
simple dev shop, I thought, what are the new technologies which are coming in, right?
Okay.
So then Web3 was growing. I had already started reading about it, NFTs, tokenomics, a lot of stuff, right? Metaverse and all. So what is it that I could relate? Once I dig deep, again, while I was looking, searching what to do, I got an email that they have
Yeah.
this course about Web3 coming, starting by one of the big companies. You can join it. Fantastic. I joined it.
Again, the
So I
universe aligned its own sweet way
exactly,
to.
exactly. And this was, like a first email. I hadn't done much from them. So I joined that course, and then I again stayed stuck with it, again working 16, 17 hours a day, at least studying. This was more of studying, not really doing much. But
Yeah.
this is more understanding, what is blockchain technology, how does it work, what are the, like nuances. A lot of part of it I understood, because metaverse, as they say, one word, metaverse, we go to what metaverse is. But
Yeah.
before metaverse, it was virtual worlds, right? And I had been building virtual worlds, like game, for broadcasters since 2007. So I thought, okay, so this is easy. This part I understand. Then once I took a little deeper into NFTs, understood what their utilities are, what is it, what is it they can do for the industry. Metaverse became easier, NFTs became easier, blockchain became easier. So I thought, okay, this is the tech that I want to start my organization, like my company. So we became a Web3
Interesting.
focused, yeah. So we became a Web3 focused design development agency. Like we highly creative, but there, and then how do you, start working? Initially, when I started, it was just me. So I started talking to a lot of people, learning. So once I got a decent confidence, thought, while I'm learning, started talking to a lot of industry folks, like somebody who had already leading before me. And I realized that the one big problem in this industry, in Web3 per se, is that the understanding of Web3 is all about crypto, and then a lot of negative words around that. But the actual use case of blockchain, what metaverse can do, what NFTs can do, and stuff like that was not there. So what I did was, there was another company coming up which was called Creator. So
Hmm.
somebody, probably noticed me in one of my sessions. They approached me and they said, "Why don't you take some sessions for us? Start doing your
Okay.
sessions." Right? So I started teaching people, like basic by basic, bring clarity around it, right? That's one. The other initiative I took was, because again, my idea was that educating more people and getting the right information to people. So I
Right.
started my podcast, which say it's called, the future of where.
Yeah.
And the core idea was try to get industry leaders from across the world and let them come and talk, how their product or service is impacting the industry, like clarifying the doubts,
Yeah.
essentially. Right? So I was fortunate. I'd already done 31 episodes, 31 or 33 episodes, and we had about guests from 18 odd countries, like some industry folks, investors, founders, amazing people,
Yeah.
you know, even people, who were running billion-dollar companies, like, so to say, unicorn companies. Again, the idea was very simple: let them come, because once they will talk, people will also listen, and
Yeah.
it's a multifaceted role, that each one of us has to play at different junctures. So that was the idea about podcast.
Yeah.
Uh,
What brought you to Anemone Solutions? Like you wanted to start your own company, and you
yeah.
always wanted to do something that something of your own. You wanted the freedom to be able to control your time, and you wanted, of course, to add value to your clients and do things differently and in a better way.
Yeah.
So this transition from being an employee to leading a company is very interesting. I feel that it brings in a lot of learnings, of course, but also um, leadership capabilities get tested in all of
Yes.
this. So tell me about the difference between being an employee when you were an employee at a company versus now being a founder, the shift in the mindset. And for our listeners, if I think about uh, people who want to excel in their roles within the company,
Yeah.
what is that shift in mindset that they need to do, even if they're not starting their own company, even if they want to stay in the company, what is that shift in mindset?
So see, I think the bigger shift was that from the very beginning, I had always done things as they were my own. In terms of mindset, from the very beginning, it was never about, that I was doing somebody else's, working for somebody else. So that is the freedom I keep talking about, that, even when I was leading teams inside another company, that was my work to be done. Right. So it was my responsibility to make sure things getting done. And sometimes, you would end up, when you take that much level of ownership, sometimes you do end up, rubbing certain people the wrong way. But that was okay
Yeah.
with me, because I was standing up for the right thing. Like I was sometimes either being standing up for the team, sometimes being standing up for the work, sometimes being standing up for the clients. Because sometimes people, like internal discussion, or generic, very generic discussion, that this is how you should deal with it. But I said no, you have to take, we'll have to do that extra effort, and we should do that, and I'm ready to, like, put in that effort with me and the team to make sure that this is delivered to the, the user
Hmm.
eventually, right? So that's something which came very, very easy for me, right? And because we were leading like that, so I think to some extent it trickled down to the team as well,
Yeah.
that I had in the team. In the company where I stayed the most, the attrition rate was very low, especially in my team. Even
Hmm.
though we were a client facing time, like, because we were in the working in the broadcast industry, the team, there's certain projects which are time intensive, right? Like,
Hmm.
in the sense that, like, you're doing some work for any big project or a big event, right?
Yeah.
The event date is finalized, like, it's like a global event and all. So you'll have to make sure that you put in the effort before that, so that you're ready for that event in
Yeah.
time. Like, sometimes things are easy, sometimes things take a little longer, right? Point is that, what is the core focus you want to achieve? Say,
Hmm.
so the shift that you said, talked about, one shift I can say is, always be outcome driven and customer focused,
Hmm. Got it.
right? And
Right.
at this, at every stage, it has to do with, from the intern to the, like, junior guys, be it dev guys, design guys, DevOps guys, whatever role,
Yeah.
to the top guy, like, whoever is there in the vertical. If the whole vertical is aligned, whole team is aligned, as with outcome driven and, customer focused, all other issues will not really, creep up. There'll not be interpersonal core challenges. They will
Right.
happen, when things are easier, because that is when you
Yeah.
start thinking, right? So
Yeah.
it's like a sports team, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like
When it,
customer focused and goal driven. It's also and just to clarify this, customer could be anybody. It could be like you could be working with an internal team within the company, and
oh,
your
absolutely.
direct person could also be your customer, or a customer can be outside of the company as well. So, but it's the idea
Absolutely.
is to add in that extra value to the customer, whoever you're working
Exactly.
with.
Exactly. So I'll give you an example, like, the
Hmm.
internal team could be, so we were the delivery, like, I was heading the delivery. But internally, there was some collateral to be created, or some design, some work to be done for the marketing team. Yeah. So this becomes an internal delivery. You're still supposed to, value that person, value that team, value that delivery, the objective, with
Yeah.
same amount of sincerity and dedication. Right. Because once this becomes your habit, it becomes a part of you, then for you to become an entrepreneur will be much more easier.
Mm.
Versus, you're part of the team, you think that, okay, I'll just pass on work and, just simply delegate at a
Just
certain
doing task
position.
for the sake of doing it because I've been given a task
Exactly.
and it's like, tick, okay, tick, check,
Yeah.
done.
I'll agree. Absolutely. Then it's got to find very, very difficult to
Yeah.
become an entrepreneur. So, so the step one below entrepreneur becomes is intrapreneur. So you become an intrapreneur. So you're in the organization. You start taking responsibility of things that you're not. I mean, you also have to look at, the kind of organization you work for.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I had always worked for small organizations. So it becomes easier, when I go and talk, like what more can I do?
Mm.
I have access to the CEO and talk to him and say, what more can I do? And it's like, okay, what do you like to do? You know,
Yeah.
that becomes easier. But in a big organization where you have thousands and thousands of people, this you will not have access to the CEO for sure. You'll have
No.
most of vertical lead, or if you're in consulting, you'll go to a
Yeah.
partner, like, or junior partner, whatever. So whatever you have access to, try and go to those people and ask what more can you do. Obviously, but you should have that preparation done, that if they say, okay, do it, that you're ready to do it. That's one.
Very
And
good.
what you want
Yeah.
to do, like what extra do you want to take on? Maybe you say that, I want to start understanding how does accounting work,
Hmm.
just a generic thing, right? Or I want to understand, how does customer service work? How does support function, right? How does taxation work? There could be so many things to learn, right? So you
Yeah.
find what you want to, learn or do extra or contribute, or you say that I'm very good at this. Can I help, guys in this? I'm good in tech side. I'm good with hardware understanding. So figure
Yeah.
that out and then go and approach people, right? Uh, and it's a very, very basic thing. The more you take responsibility, the more you will take the work off the plate of your, the senior or the team
Correct.
within the, like within your department or outside,
Yeah.
the more you will be valued.
Very good
That
point.
is
So, yeah.
that
Go ahead.
that is my understanding. That is my understanding. And I would
Yeah.
tell them, please go to Thekera. No. You can talk to him. You figure it out because, we want to speak with you because you'll understand things, whatever, because I'm much more closer to the customer.
Absolutely.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
It's
what it is.
I think it's also becoming like that go-to person. Like work towards becoming that go-to person who's so valuable in the team. It could be it could be any, like have expertise in something, of course, but also be a reliable, trustworthy source is what I'm hearing in our conversation. Be curious
Yes.
about what else can I do, how else can I contribute, but also not. I feel like there's this thin line where you're like, okay, just for the sake of, okay, what else can I do? What else can I do? That's one sake of doing it. But the other thing is, okay, you know what? I have these two, three crazy ideas in my head. I'm going to bring it up to my customer and be like, what else can I do? This is what I have in mind. And that makes a whole lot of difference versus, just like, okay, you tell me, what can I do? You tell me, like that. You tell me also increases the burden in front of the person who's like, okay, I'm thinking.
Absolutely. I'll totally agree with that. Like when you go with solutions, so in the kind of environment that you are in, you have to be obviously mindful of that. But everybody likes to hear ideas. So that is
Yeah,
exactly, this exact same thought process, what, we're driving in our organization. So we are
yeah,
partners. We work as partners, not as vendors. It's very
correct,
clear to us. There's a very,
correct.
very big difference. Like people say, no, we are just vendors and we're not supposed to. No, we are ready to take more responsibility. So it's like,
Yeah,
when you take more responsibility, universe rewards you with more rewards. Slowly and
absolutely.
steadily, it'll start showing up. Sometimes it could be immediate, sometimes it could take time. That's a different way. But you have to be ready for responsibility. If you're not, if you're, if you see that my, uh, you know, um, work is done at a certain time or certain hour, you're not going to get more responsibility. And the one who's going to take more responsibility will eventually,
Correct.
get the benefit out of it.
Yeah, but also want to like pause here and and clarify that we don't mean that we are trying to say that people who work 12 hours a day are the ones who are going to get success. Like that's not what you're trying to say
Yeah,
here,
yeah, yeah. No,
right?
no, no. That's not at all. Not at all. I'm not saying overburdening yourself.
Yeah,
I'm not saying overburden. I'm not saying overstretch yourself. What I'm saying is that, be responsible.
very nice. Yes,
Becoming responsible is that, that you will show up, because when you're responsible, you will show up, be it is
you
the
sure.
right thing or be it the wrong thing.
Correct.
Especially if you're in a leadership position in an organization, this is exactly what you need to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes it will always, you will not always get applause.
Mm.
Sometimes it's going to be the other way around as well, because that's how life is, right? But you got to learn to take it, especially if you really want to get into entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
especially if you're thinking, at a certain time, or in life, you want to become independent, you want to start, be it a one person company, or like a agency, and then eventually going to a big company. You should always be ready to listen applause as well as brickbats. This is
Mm.
exactly how it is, because not
Very nice.
everybody will get your thought process, not everybody
Yeah.
will understand your journey, because you are
No.
living it, right? The
Correct.
decisions you'll make, things like that. But you got to be confident enough that the choices you're making are for the best, with the best knowledge available to you at that point in time.
Absolutely. Wow. The choices you're making are with the best knowledge available to you at that point in time. It's just so that that statement is so important because we have been gifted a very special gift by whosoever designed this amazing brain and body is what I call hindsight. Like in hindsight, I think, okay, I could have taken that decision. I could have done this better. I could have, but like could have, would have, should have. But it's all
Yeah,
about what you are doing in the present moment, in the present moment of time, whatever information, whatever environment you have at that
exactly.
point in time. And that's the right thing to do. Okay, amazing. I think I'm really, really loving this conversation of thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. But tell me about how did you manage time in this phase where you were manage time actually in general because I feel like you've always been ahead of the curve. I hear that in terms of understanding the technology, and of course we're giving credit to the universe also to place you in places where the right
Yeah,
places at the right time. But you've also but credit to you as well to use those opportunities in a very wise manner and understand
yeah,
that this is probably an opportunity for me. So, having said all of that, I'm sure it's not as rosy as it sounds to us, right? But
yeah,
you have a family as well, and you started your own business. You were working for a company at some point in time. How were you managing time, and mm, what are the tools and resources that we can share with our listeners on how well to manage time? Be given that our life is holistic with our families and our friends and social life and all the other responsibilities that we have. How did you manage time?
fantastic. So I'll give you one example from the journey that I, like, as an employee, and then one probably as an.
Perfect. That is perfect.
So because, and see, this also becomes industry specific. So because we were working,
Yeah.
in an industry, mostly like most of my career in broadcast, where it is event driven, right? You have this event, you have this delivery for a customer to launch and everything. So there were certain times, where you had to spend, especially I, and as well as the team, not as an individual, a lot more time in the office, right? Like we have to deliver, but we were not really focused on the clock per se. We were like well rested and all that. But then what we'll do is we'll take some days, continuously off, because we've delivered a good project, it's successful. So basically you will manage, uh, if not daily, like, but in terms of weeks and months. right? So sometimes,
Yeah.
and it is not always, it's not something that there was always a rush hour every day, or no, there were a lot of lean
Yeah.
times, there were a lot of relax where you go at 9:30, 10, come back by, I don't know,
Sure.
6:30. So those were like very, very relaxed times as well. But I'm talking about the crux times, when like you have a big event coming in and
Peak
everybody's
time.
putting
Yeah.
together. Exactly, peak time, like, so yes,
Hmm.
at a leadership level, you have to spend extra time. Don't even compare yourself with the, like the other team members. If you are the one leading a project or leading a team or everything, you are going to spend more time. But
Yeah.
and always make sure that your team is at ease. Give them as much information, keep it as transparent as possible. Whatever can be shared, whatever is possible. Because the more information they'll have, they'll be able to take that decision much more wisely,
Yeah.
because eventually they'll have to take their own decisions for their family, for their, like how to manage work, how to manage, a home, and there are certain other, things which happen. So I would say that try and have that balance, if not daily, but from a week or a monthly cycle, the kind, depending upon the kind of role that you are in, right?
So
Especially,
maybe
yeah. Mhm.
maybe what you're saying is like have your in term when you say balance in a month, for example. So monthly, when I say balance, I mean, okay, in a month I want to do XYZ. It could be going to two birthday parties with my child, two recitals with my child, two dinner dates with my wife, meet friends, two weekends. These are my personal commitments, and XYZ is my work commitments. And I want to be able to achieve all of this in this particular month. And I
Exactly,
divide time
exactly.
accordingly. Okay.
Exactly, because you see, you have the understanding that the certain things which require attention, immediate attention, be it at work or home. Right? So those become sacrosanct. You have to take care of that. So then there are like tertiary things that okay, this can be managed, this cannot be managed. I have a good alignment with my boss. I have a good alignment with my team. And things can manage because and the other thing that is very important is Sindhu, is that if you expect others to take care of things when you're not present, you should be there for them as well, to
Correct.
take care of things when they are not present, because life is cyclic, right? This things can happen in anybody's life, be it at work front or at personal front,
Yeah.
right? So both ways you got to be able, so that's the environment you need to create as a leader. I'm talking primarily from a leadership point of view, but as an
Yeah.
employee point of view, like where you are looking up to a leader, you make sure that you have generate enough trust that your leader will
Hmm.
trust you.
Hmm. Fair.
Right, because I have been
Yeah.
in that. I was not on day one of my job. I was not, like leading a team, and I joined as a, a regular application specialist.
Yeah.
But then you build that, by taking responsibility, and taking responsibility sometimes does mean putting that extra effort, extra hours, if you say. But
Mm-hmm.
again, like I said, it is about the outcome. If the outcome is achieved in 1 hour, fantastic. If it takes 10 hours, it takes 10 hours. You have to do that, right?
Yeah.
Plus the role. So there are a lot of moving pieces, but I'm just trying to, like simplify it as much as possible.
Yeah. No, but also I feel like you got to be passionate about the work that you're doing. Like it could be you don't enjoy the work that you do, and then
Yeah.
whatever work that you're doing, the outcome is going to take like 10 hours. But going on the other side of the spectrum, that it's going to take 10 hours. The point is that you're not passionate. If you're not passionate, investing those 10 hours would feel like years of time and not very energizing. So, in those situations, what do you recommend people to do? What is your recommendation as a leader, given that you're leading a company and you've also been a leader in other companies? What is your recommendation for people in that?
Sure. So one step you have to take back, if you take a step back and see, what exactly do you like to? I'll say passion is a very much stronger word, like I want to be very
Correct.
passionate. So for me, I'm very passionate about the work, things I was doing, and that's why it was easy for me to, I was never looking at the clock because I was, to find the result, right? Per se. The outcome has to be achieved, and then then you figure out how do you manage it, right? That's a
Yeah.
separate thing. But in your
Yeah.
question, like when you're not passionate and you're supposed to do it, I think my suggestion will be figure out what actually ticks with you, because eventually, say I'll give you an example. Say if you are a chef who likes to create Italian food, like pasta, but for some odd reason you're taking the job in a Korean restaurant. Now what do? You have to see. even if it is your job, right? Even if you're doing it only for certain reasons, financial or any other reason, somebody has trusted you to do that job. Somebody has trusted you. That's the reason why you're there. You're
Beautiful.
hired, right? So forget everything else. Even for that trust, do that extra effort so that you do it to the level it is acceptable.
Beautiful.
Because if you're not doing it, you're not just doing justice to the role, you're not doing justice to somebody's trust, you're not doing justice to the money that you're making, right? So essentially, there's no effort, even though you're putting in the hours, but the effort to do get it to a level where it is justified, it is acceptable, right? Not every day you have to create, like a Michelin star dish, like
No.
considering a food example. Sometimes it's regular food. But if you
Yeah.
have to do that and you are not doing that, that is something that you need to introspect, that what can you do, right? And I would also suggest go and talk to the person who's leading the team, right? Be it your team manager, your boss, how do I ever put it? Go and talk to that person. That what can you do to be better? This is the challenge. Have a heart-to-heart conversation,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Uh, why I'm saying that is because there's no other way out.
Correct.
So you need to have maybe a little realignment, maybe something else, maybe some guidance on how to do it. Maybe it's not very difficult, it's your mindset which is trying to pull you back. Maybe it is the manager itself. Sometimes in certain cases you do get bad managers. It's a
Yeah.
reality, right? We may have been lucky, right? But sometimes you've seen that people do get sometimes. Then in that case you'll
Yeah.
have to figure out a way where you can switch jobs, right? Or you can
Fair.
again, even then, like if I would also say that, you feel that there is a misalignment between you and the manager, as a team member, go and talk to the manager still, that because if somebody has become a manager, which means they have certain skills, which gave them that position. Go and talk to that person, this is the alignment challenge I'm facing. Maybe other team members are also facing, they're not owning it up, right?
Yeah.
Eventually you are helping the manager itself, because five people going to the HR, individually and saying that, I'm not working out with this guy or girl, versus one person taking that responsibility and doing it, right? This will definitely help the manager itself. You're trying to
Yeah.
improve that person, you know,
Absolutely.
before, something untoward happens to that role or, whatever. So eventually you have to take responsibility. It's your life. You have to take responsibility is,
Correct.
what I would say is the crux of things.
I love that. It's your life and you have to take responsibility. And it's so interesting when you said that you are not, like, you make sure that you're doing justice to the trust that you've earned, the money that you're getting out of the job. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like, because not everything's going to be enjoyable about a job, right? There's always
exactly.
this like principle of like certain percentage will be fun, certain percentage will absolutely not be fun, and you'll be okay with it. And how do you live with it? How do you create a different version of it for yourself? Like what works for you? And a lot, of course, has is relates to talking to your leaders and talking to your managers and voicing it out and
Absolutely.
really sharing. I think most of us don't voice it out. I feel like
You have
a
to
lot of
take,
us don't
because,
voice it out eventually.
exactly,
Like,
because I tell you
yeah,
why, because there is certain amount of fear that we have. What if it does
yeah,
not like? What if we are fired? What if this? What if?
yeah.
So I would say
Which is fair.
99% of, no, these are not fair. I would say
Okay.
90% of these fears are our self driven, our self inflicted,
Oh,
our self thought. Because see, if you go and talk to a manager and tell that, that this is my problem and how can I improve, tell me a way, why would he not help you improve? Because you are part of his team. So if you
very,
are a flat
very
tire,
apt.
let's assume that if you are the flat tire in the team, and if he's not going to, fix you, like, and pull some air, the car will always drive slow,
Wow, I love these examples. I really
right?
love these examples. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
it's in the manager's best interest to help you out. And if that
yeah,
person is not doing it, then I'm sure the manager above him, because it's always a hierarchy, is facing trouble with this person.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
this person needs coaching, and whatever.
yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that this is what it is, and you always will have to do it. So I'll give you one example from my life. So when I was, in my job, I was traveling a lot, like a lot.
Yeah.
So then I had to do all these, bills and everything. Once you travel, come back, you have to do all these bills. And accounts is something that I was like, big creative guy, all those things. I would
Yeah. Oh
always
my
be
God.
very mundane work.
Yeah.
But it was my responsibility to make sure that I give, because again, the accounts team will be dependent on me, and, because they will tally for the whole thing. They will, do all the receivables and whatever, they'll have to prepare their own account statements.
Right.
They would be pending because of I am doing it. So I
Correct.
took maybe the responsibility, took on a challenge. They want to do it in the first 5 or 10 days of coming back, or maybe, as soon as possible. So everything started aligning. So what I would do is, whenever I'm on an international trade, I would start noting the basic expenses on my phone. Notepad is there. So when I'm back
Correct.
in office, I just have to tally
It's
the,
quick and
notes and the receipts that I've had.
yeah.
Or if I don't have whatever, put it together, put in the format and do it.
Yeah.
So you have to do that. I mean, this could be one simple example, but the amount of traveling that I was doing,
Yeah.
it was enormous.
Fair enough. Okay,
At
fair
a
enough.
certain
Fair
point.
enough. A little bit. I do want to touch a little bit on the skill development. And we have touched a lot on leadership and being a good team member, different ways of being a good leader. I do want to touch on skill development and productivity a little
Hmm.
bit now. What are the daily and weekly habits that help you stay productive and creative, given your creativity in such a high pressure environment?
Okay, sure. So both FIFA and London, Olympic projects we were doing with broadcasters who were opposite of our time zone. One was in Mexico, one was in Brazil.
Wow.
So what was very important? So so once the projects were signed and we started to build on them. So I'll talk about the Olympics one. So once we started working, like back in our office in India, one thing we had to really manage was the timing of things. Like how do you make sure
Yeah.
that because it's all design and creative work, and it has to have
Correct.
that approval from the customer eventually. And you have these high, the design heads and the creative and the heads from their end as well. So we figured out a way that their early morning, or their morning and our evening would definitely work, because there's a difference about 8.5 or 9 hours.
Mm.
So for us, what we figured, it was end of the day for us. They would go ahead and like we would show them, they would review it during their day. So by the time we are in the next day, we would have a certain amount of updates from them: accepted, not accepted, feedback, changes required, whatever, because again, this is iterative.
Yeah.
So we would have that. So with period of time, those meetings became much more like a discussion. Okay, man, how you doing and everything, because the initial challenge that we had to face of communication was solved during the initial first few days of the project
Mm.
initiation. Maybe the first couple of weeks, 3 weeks, where the designs were getting done and, like the logic, what they
Yeah.
really need. And then it was
Yeah.
more about, showing it to them, taking an approval, showing it to them, taking an approval. That's all.
Right.
So
So,
timing wise, I would say timing wise is again one thing which will come down to is communication. How you're talking to
mm,
them, how you're communicating. Because if somebody in the team, like be the manager, be it yourself, is withholding communication, especially when an external customer is involved, and a high pressure situation,
yeah.
when then things can break much more easily.
Mm,
And if the communication is there, like where we have alignment, like what time works for you, what time works for us, what can we do, how can we do it, what sort of a meeting format, what sort of mailing formats, what I had defined was, this is how the mails will go in a
mm,
particular templarized format, particular design, particular format, particular animation, folder, and that created that structure. That was my responsibility. So once
yeah.
that was created, it became easier after the initial few days for everybody to know, what to do, where to look for, what are the
Yeah.
challenges, how to solve that.
Yeah.
So, that is more to do with the leaders. And for the team, I have to again credit everybody in the team, like even my dev guys, like very senior guys, some senior than
Yeah.
me as well, that everybody kind of put together, came aligned. There were no ego tussles, thankfully, coming
Yeah.
in that, no, because I am senior, I should do
Let's
this.
talk
No,
about
no,
that. Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there were no ego tussles, coming in. Eventually, everybody realized that, again, common goal, common objective, that the goal is to make sure that the customer has a great experience eventually, because, somebody from the team will be going to London, and the designs, have the, all the machines
yeah,
and hardware will be shipped to, their setup and everything. So the outcome was that, and everybody was working towards that outcome.
yeah,
And have done, like with the same similarity, we've done that event after event, like even Khelo India, like we did in Guwahati and then different other places. We're doing multiple events. It's a culmination of, again, the vision and, like how do you execute and taking alignment from everybody.
mm,
That's very important, and somebody who says that, that you are the leader and everything, no, what I'll say will only work.
yeah.
That is something that you need to let go of, as a leader, right?
So
It is possible that it comes, but you have
yeah.
to, kind of take that step back.
Okay, as we're coming to a little bit closer to the end of this episode, I
Yeah.
would like to conclude with two questions. And
Go ahead.
first one being, what's a leadership or a career lesson you wish people told you about earlier?
Handle office politics.
How to handle
That
office?
politics. It happens,
Politics.
like,
Okay.
oh yeah, it happens, it happens is there. So, one
Hmm.
outcome for me was stay away from gossip. Focus on your work. Focus on work. Stay away from
Yeah.
gossip.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my God. Gossip is such a nonsense. Yeah, thing. But yeah, okay. Yes, absolutely. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay. Another question that I have for you is, what do you think people misunderstand about the future of work?
Well, one is, I think the biggest misunderstanding is that they will not have to work.
Yeah. With
I
AI
think that's
coming in, that's the biggest misunderstanding.
yes, that's a very, very big misunderstanding. I would say is that, one, you need to become master of at least one vertical and know a lot about other verticals. Eventually, I know we're getting towards AI and everything with agentic. But eventually, what will happen is that what will determine, like a lot of people have also said, that it's not the ones put in the effort only will
Yeah.
win. It's the one who understand how to use AI and then put in the effort will win. Yeah. Eventually, it's going to touch every industry. Uh, you see AI as a friend, as an enabler. What I'm trying to say is how this particular technology called AI can enable you and your industry to work smarter and faster
Hmm.
while being
Hmm.
efficient. That is very important. You can't completely rely on AI.
No.
A lot of, as of today, lot of, accurate information is rolled
Yeah.
out from them. Lot of plagiarized information is rolled
Correct.
out from them. Like a lot of people have already started, suing certain
Yeah.
companies. What I'm trying to say is that how are you going to use, let's assume this is the jet engine. You can fit it in your car, which is your organization or your team. And how can you actually expedite things
Hmm.
faster without breaking things down? Right? Until that, and you are an expert of your industry, right? You are the ones who's doing things. You are the ones who understand your
Yeah.
organization better. Why you have to allow somebody else from the outside come and tell you? You just start taking the responsibility and have that a little bit of critical thinking. That's all what it
Very
is.
nice. Absolutely relevant. And I think that is what a lot of people are saying, that you need to don't think about AI replacing your job, but really think about how can you work with AI to be more efficient, faster, and the fact I've been hearing this so much that people who know how to work with AI really stand a good chance in the future of a good career.
Definitely, because this is becoming the
Yeah,
norm these days, right? Everybody has to learn. Start understanding what prompting is. Start understanding how what is the difference between Chat GPT, Llama, and several other what is Anthropic doing with Claude. I mean, these are all different
yeah,
platforms or LLM models, large language models, right? What eventually will happen is these large language models will become to contextual models. Contextual models, what I mean is they industry
yeah,
specific. From industry specific, they'll become domain specific. Eventually, that filtration
yeah.
will happen. Right now, we're just in that hype cycle of everybody's talking about AI, AI. But eventually, all these big models will turn now contextual models, which is going to work. What works in food industry might not work in
Correct.
manufacturing. What works in manufacturing of cars might not, work as it is in manufacturing of
Yeah.
bottles or phones, right? So all these things will eventually drip down. But instead of fearing, the only advantage you'll have is instead of fearing, you try and embrace it. Let's see what it has. Have that curiosity in you.
Right.
That so even if you're not doing it for yourself, do it for your family, do it for your kids. If you are parents,
Yeah.
do it for the overall generic people, because your awareness is going to help someone or the
Yeah.
other, definitely.
That's a great segue into the next question around what is a skill that people can develop irrespective of their industry to stay in alignment with the changing technology.
Very basic skill: reading and listening.
Wow. Okay.
Very basic. Read a lot. One, from your industry. Second, from the industry that you have interest in. Third, which you think is growing.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's such a great advice. And such basic skills everyone can develop, irrespective like background, industries, technology, no technology. Okay, amazing. That brings me to the end of this episode. And one last piece of advice for people: how to stay creative and curious in this emerging technology world. So over to you on that one last piece of
Okay.
advice.
Thank you. I think staying curious is that, so when you are inherently happy
Yeah.
from within, irrespective what's happening outside the world, your situation might not be very good. Maybe it's very good, nobody knows. What is important is that you have that inner calmness and contentment that will build over time. It's not going to happen on day one. It's not, for you, it might, you might be the champion. But having that inner contentment will help you, look at things from perspective. And once you have your perspective, that is when people will start listening to
Hmm. Yeah.
you, right? So that's about it. Have fun in life. Try and have as much fun as life. I also watch sometimes, series, and sometimes, to chill out. And
Yeah.
sometimes I definitely take a break. I try and spend a lot of time with my kids as well, whatever time I get. But you have to have those fun things in your life. And yeah,
Perfect.
all the best.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being with us today, Alekh. It was a great conversation. I'm sure there is a lot that the listeners can take away from this conversation. So thank you for being with us today. And to our listeners, if you've listened to this episode, if you feel you can help someone with this episode, please share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels, like this video, and share it around with your friends and family. Thank you so much for listening, and bye bye for now.